Greetings. So this is the SVT-40, Soviet battle rifle from the World War II era. To give you a little bit of history, back in 1891, Tsarist Russia adopted the M91 battle rifle. It was a bolt-action rifle, 5 rounds in the magazine, and that rifle served these Tsarist Russia and the Soviet Union until the 1940s. At least that was the plan. Stalin decided that the Soviet forces needed a new rifle to be able to compete with the more advanced weapons technology that the Germans had. So Tokarev and a few other designers submitted rifles for competition, and the eventual winner was this SVT-40. This particular model came out in 1941, so this was actually made during the war and used during World War II. Problem with the rifle. Well, the average soldier loved it because it used the same high power round that the M91 used. It also was prone to malfunctions. Oftentimes, because it was a very overgassed rifle, unless you set it pretty carefully, you get a lot of jams, you get a lot of failure to feeds, all that sort of thing. However, it was loved, as I said, by the average Russian soldier and the average German soldier. Oftentimes, when these rifles were captured by Wehrmacht soldiers, they would use them themselves against the Russians. And the rifle became so popular among Germans that the Wehrmacht actually produced a manual in German for their soldiers to be able to maintain and use this rifle. That's how popular it was. It's a testimony to, how good this rifle really is. So you're saying, well, earlier you said the plan was that this was supposed to replace the M91. Well, one slight problem with it. It's a far more expensive and complicated rifle to produce than the M9130 was. M9130 was a simple bolt-action rifle designed around the Mauser bolt rifle system, which is still in use today in a lot of hunting rifles. So the Russian, or rather the Soviet forces, the high command, decided that instead of producing a few SVT-40s, they could produce a lot of M9130s. So a lot of the factories that were tasked to produce the SVT-40 were reconverted back to produce the M9130. So for the most part, the SVT-40 is considered a failure. After the war, unfortunately for the SVT-40, it didn't have a long life. New generation rifles were coming down the pipe, which were lighter. This is a very heavy rifle. And in 1945, the SKS-45 was released. And that rifle pretty much became the frontline weapon for all Soviet forces. Unfortunately for that rifle, it also didn't have a very long lifespan, because only 2 years later, the famous Kalashnikov AK-47 was released, and it became the standard battle rifle or assault rifle of the Soviet Union, due to the fact that it was an automatic weapon, it was cheap to produce, it was rugged, a lot of the things that the SVT-40 isn't. It fires the same round as the M9130, this SVT-40. It fires the 7.62 by 54 millimeter R round. It's a high power round, ballistically similar to .308. So it does a lot of damage when it hits its target. I have to confess that outside of my VZ58, this really is my favorite rifle. I love the lines of it. I love how beautiful it is. It is prone to malfunction, which a lot of the Soviet forces at the time noted. And it's powerful to the point where an automatic version of this, the AVT-40, which was also released that year, actually shook itself apart often. They would fire it in fully automatic mode, and the stock on the rifle would actually fracture and break. So they had to release a new SVT-40 with a reinforced stock. And a lot of those were converted after the war or taken apart, and you'll find SVT-40s with those stocks. So kind of a failed weapons system. Unfortunately, it did bring a lot of strengths to the table, but it also brought a couple of weaknesses, notably being too expensive and too complicated to make. Not much more to say about this. Time to go shooting.